this lesson, we will explore the operation of subtraction in more depth, looking at some common representations and algorithms. Subtraction is another operation that we can perform on two numbers. We call our two original numbers the minuend and the subtrahend. The reason for having two different names for our starting numbers is that subtraction is not commutative, and that's something that we're going to explore in more detail coming up. The result of a subtraction is called the difference. Next, we're going to look at two different models for subtraction, the takeaway model and the missing addend or counting up model. In the takeaway model, we first model the minuend. Then we quite literally take away the subtrahend. So if we wanted to model something like 7 take away 4, we would first show 7 objects, like we have here on the left, and then physically take away 4 of them. This should leave us with the difference, in our case, 3. In the missing addend, or counting up model, we convert the subtraction statement into an addition statement. In our case, if we wanted to find the difference of 7 take away 3, we could instead ask 3 plus what number is equal to 7. And then from here, we start with 3 objects, and we count up until we reach the number 7. 4, 5, 6, 7. So we had to add 4 objects to get to 7, and that solves our original subtraction question. This counting up model has a really nice advantage in that it's very easy to model on the number line with jumps. So if we're looking at the missing addend model, 3 plus what number is equal to 7, we would start on the number line at number 3, and we would keep jumping up until we got to the number 7. And notice here that we took 4 jumps to get to the number 7, and that is the final answer for our subtraction question. Next, let's connect the takeaway model to the standard algorithm using the question 234 take away 123. Notice here that I've already modeled the minuend, 234. Now we're going to begin in the ones column and start taking away blocks in our model. Notice in our model we have 4 ones, and we'd like to take away 3. Well, we can do that, so let's remove those 3 ones, and we're left over with 1 unit. Then, moving into our tens column, we have 3 tens in our model, and we'd want to take away 2 of them. Well, we can do that. Let's remove 2 tens, and we notice that we have 1 10 left over. Finally, we have 2 hundreds in our model, and I'd like to take away 1 of those, so we can go ahead and do that. And that leaves us with 100. So our final answer here is 111. Next, let's look at an example that involves regrouping. 212 take away 145. Notice again that I've already modeled the minuend, 212 on the left. Let's start in the units column. I have 2 units in the model, but I need to take away 5. So what should we do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the 10 block that we have and break it up into its individual units. So what does that look like inside of our standard algorithm? Well, I've removed 1 10, so now I have 0, and I've added 10 of these objects to the units, so now I have 12 units altogether. Now we can take away 5 units, and we count how many we have left over. In our case, we have 7. Next, we move to the tens column. Well, we don't have any tens in our model, and we need to take away 4 of them. So what should we do? Well, let's break apart one of our hundreds blocks into tens. Doing that, we're going to get 10 tens. So what does this look like inside of our algorithm? Well, I've taken away one of my hundreds, so now I have 1 remaining. And now instead of having 0 tens, I have 10 tens. That means we can now take away 4 of these tens, And that's going to leave us with 6 tens left over. Finally, we move into the hundreds column. I have 100 in the model, and I need to take away one of those hundreds. So we have 0 hundreds left over. And 67 is our final difference. This slide has a quick summary of the two different models. The takeaway model fits really nicely with the standard algorithm. On the other hand, the counting up model tends to lend itself nicely to the number line. So my advice is to choose a model that works for your students, given the situation that you're working with. To end the lesson, let's work on a few examples. First, we're going to look at 3051 take away 470. And we're going to model the subtraction by counting up on our number line. Recall that the counting up strategy changes our subtraction statement into an addition statement. So I'm really thinking, if I start at 470, how much more do I have to add to get to 3051? And now I'm going to start adding some jumps on my number line. The first jump I'm going to choose is a jump of 30, and that's going to get me to a nice round number of 500. I'm going to follow that with a jump of 500 because that's going to get me to 1000. Next, I'll choose a jump of 2000, and that should get me to the number 3000. And then finally, I can do one final jump of size 51, and that'll get me to the difference, which is 3051. Adding up all of these jumps, 30 plus 500 plus 200 plus 51, gives me 2581. This means that my final difference must be 2581. In this example, we're going to model 6003 take away 562. I'm going to begin by modeling the minuend. Notice here I have 6 thousands blocks and 3 units. My first step is looking at the ones column. I have 3 units, and I'm going to take away 2 of them. That's going to leave me with 1 unit left over. Next, I move into the tens column. I have 0 tens in the model, and I need to take away 6 of them. So how am I going to get some tens to take away? Well, the next biggest block that I have is the thousands cube. So let's get rid of one of these thousands cubes and replace it with 10 hundreds. I'm going to go back to my algorithm. I've taken away 1000, and in exchange, I'm going to get 10 hundreds. However, that doesn't necessarily help me with the situation that I'm in the tens column. I still need to take away 6 tens, but I don't have any. What we're going to do is we're going to exchange one of our hundreds for 10 tens. Connecting this to the algorithm, I took away one of my hundreds, and I replaced that with 10 tens blocks. Now I have enough tens blocks to take away 6. And notice that we have 4 tens left over. Next, let's look at the hundreds column. I have 9 hundreds in my model, and I need to take away 5 of them. That's going to leave me with 4 remaining hundreds. And since I'm not taking away any thousands, I'm going to have 5 thousands left over. So we have a final difference of 5,441. All right, my little epsilons, stay positive.